Okay, so now.
Thank you to whoever did that.
I was wondering if you did that.
Got you, Paris. I saw you in the car. I got you. Don't worry.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so last night we started with the suffix tame, and from that we're going to get involved in Tum and Tara. So first we have to finish off the last sugya, which okay, so again we're going to finish off the last sugya with the machlokes Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Shmuel over with what's the sources for Baal Boil, right? And then, am I on the right daf? Yeah. And then we're going to discuss the tumah, that a tumah that doesn't have the ability, if something's a suffix tumah and it doesn't have the ability to tell you, meaning it's inanimate object, so it can't tell you anything about the suffix, so then that is considered that's a suffix tumah that's going to be tahar. And then we get into the whole din of rishon l'tumah, sheni l'tumah, shlishi l'tumah, revi l'tumah, and that's going to carry us on Tamid Beis. Yeah. Okay. So now going to the sugya that we're in the middle of. So we had said that Rabbi Kiva, and I don't remember where we left off, but Rabbi Kiva had said a din that we have that truma, the saita cannot, if she becomes an almana or she becomes divorced, she goes back to her father's house and she's a bas kayin, she can't eat truma. To which Rabbi Shmuel replied, no, I'm saying the opposite. No, yes. And then Rabbi Shmuel said, "Oh, we have a kal v'chomer that she can't even marry a kohen anymore." Right. So then we're holding we're on the top of the Amud. We started it last night. So basically, Rabbi Kiva agreed with him that a bas kohen can no longer, or even not a bas kohen, she can no longer, after she's a saita, she can no longer marry a kohen, right? So they both Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Kiva agree that she can no longer marry a kohen. The machlokes is what the source is for it, right? So Rabbi Shmuel learned it out from a kal v'chomer. What's Rabbi Kiva's source? So Ella, so 3 lines down from the top. So the source for Rabbi Kiva that she can no longer marry a kohen is as follows. Ella Rabbi Kiva arba kroik sivi. According to Rabbi Kiva, there's 4 psukim. Chad lebal, one to tell us that the bal is also to her, the chad lebayil, and one is to tell us that the perpetrator is also to her, the chad lekahuna, and one from the word what's it called? Yitama, right? And then one is to tell her that she can't marry a kohen. The chad l'truma, and one is to tell us that she can't eat truma, right? So Rabbi Kiva has 4 different psukim to darshan, 3 from the word tuma and 1 with the word vit, with the letter vit. Okay, Rabbi Shmuel tlasa kroik sivi. Rabbi Shmuel only darshans 3 psukim. Chad lebal, 1 for the bal, chad lebayil, 1 for the perpetrator, chad letruma, 1 for truma, or kahuna. So therefore, since he doesn't have a pasuk for kahuna, so he has to learn out the kal v'chomer. Kahuna ashib a kal v'chomer. He learns it out from a kal v'chomer. That's a basic machlokes, meaning Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Kiva are not arguing. Everybody agrees she can no longer marry a kohen. Their machlokes is, how do we know it? Right? How do we know it? So Rabbi Kiva has 4 psukim, so he doesn't need a kal v'chomer. Rabbi Shmuel only has 3 psukim, so he needs the kahuna to learn. He knows it from a kal v'chomer. Okay, but Rabbi Shmuel, truma ukahuna. According to Rabbi Shmuel, so again, the disagreement is what the pasuk is coming to teach truma and kahuna you learn from a kal v'chomer. Right? That's according to Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Kiva says we learn it all from psukim. But the bottom line is according to Rabbi Shmuel, the pasuk is teaching truma and kahuna that she's not allowed to marry a kohen comes from a kal v'chomer. The Gemara says maybe the opposite. Rabbi Shmuel might it's called truma. Who says you need a pasuk to say that she can no longer eat truma? Ukahuna asim kal v'chomer. And kahuna comes from kal v'chomer dilma ki itzrich kahuna. Maybe you need the pasuk to tell you that she can no longer marry a kohen utruma sharia, and then since you don't have a kal v'chomer, so she's allowed to eat truma. Meaning, you're assuming, according to Rabbi Shmuel, we're assuming that she can't eat truma and she can't marry a kohen. You want to say, who says? Maybe one pasuk's coming to tell you that she can't marry a kohen, and now you don't have a kal v'chomer, and she's allowed to eat truma. Right? So the Gemara says, Amalach, Mistavra Dumya the Baal Bayal. Mistavra, the pasuk is coming, since it's also one, meaning again, there's three psukim according to Rabbi Shmuel. One is for the Baal, to answer the husband, one is to answer the Bayal, one, and then we have a third one, which we say he's learning for Truma, and the Gemara is asking maybe he should learn it for Kahuna. So he's saying, no, it's Mistama, it's coming for the, if it's the other psukim are coming for the Baal and Bayal, Ma Baal and Bayal Mechayim. Just like the Baal and the Bayal are alive, Af Truma Nami Mechayim. So Truma is also Mechayim, meaning they're still alive. Meaning if she gets divorced, everybody's still alive. She goes back to her father's house. Her father's a Kohen, so she can't eat the Truma. Lafuke Kahuna, the Lachar Misa. It's coming to exclude Kahuna, that's Achar Misa. Meaning we're trying to keep the Pirush of the Psukim with something that's what's the word we look for? I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. Not uniform, meaning
consistent.
Consistent. Thank you. Very good. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. Consistent. Right? We're looking for consistency. So since Baal and Bayal are alive, so let's make the third pasuk for somebody that's alive too. The scenario where they're both alive, which is Truma, because if they divorce her, then she goes back to her father's house and she can't eat Truma, and that leaves the Kal V'chomer for Kahuna to tell us that she can't marry a Kohen either. So that's why, for consistency's sake, that's why the diuk's made that way. Fine, Rabbi Akiva, right? What about Rabbi Akiva? Dumya the Baal Bayal Leslie. He doesn't have that diuk of Baal and Bayal. And even if he would have that diuk of Baal and Bayal, he's still not going to learn out the Kal V'chomer. He's going to still use a pasuk. Meaning the Gemara's Kasha, Rabbi Akiva has 4 psukim, right? So why do you need 4 psukim? Maybe 3 of the psukim are coming for Baal Bayal Truma, and the 4th pasuk you'll learn the rest from Kal V'chomer. So he says, no, you can't do that because Milsa das of Kal V'chomer Torah because of Lakra. Rabbi Akiva holds that something that you could learn out from a Kal V'chomer, the pasuk will still write it. So therefore, he needs all 4 psukim to tell us Baal Bayal, no Truma, and she can't marry a Kohen. Fine. Now we had said on Amid Beis that we learn out from Saita, because Saita happens in a Rishus HaYachid. So there we said, since a Saita is a suffix and it's Asr, so therefore we learn out for Tuma that's a suffix that it's Asr. But we said that just like the suffix by Saita, is there humans involved, so therefore they could actually shed light on the situation, right? He's a human, she's a human. So therefore, and that's when we said the suffix is Tameh, suffix is Asr. So the same thing by a suffix Tuma, it has to be going on a human. But if it's something that's inanimate, so therefore there's no suffix on that. Right? There's no suffix on that. And meaning there is a suffix, but we're going to be makel on that suffix. Right? So and we had learned that from Saita, because it has to fit into the exact parameters that we have by Saita. Now, Reb Gidol Amarav is going to have a different source for that. So Amarav Gidol Amarav, Davar sheyesh by das lishol, something that has the das to be asked from, ve'ein by das lishoel, and it doesn't have the das. Let me do the diktuk here. So right, it's Davar sheyesh by das lishol. I'm sorry, yeah. Meaning that there's a difference between something that has the das to be asked and something that doesn't have the das. Meaning, if the suffix of the tumah is a human, or the suffix of the tumah is a food, right? So obviously you can't ask the food, where was it and what went on, etc., etc. You can ask the human. So how do we know that there's a difference between suffix? Mehaikra nafka. We learn it out from this pasuk. It says the basar, meaning this is talking about karbanis, the basar of a carbon that touches anything that's tamei lo yochal. You're not allowed to eat it. Vadei tamei hu de lo yochal. So the pasuk is mashma. That's only something that's vadei tamei. You can't eat it. Has suffix tamei. But if it's a suffix tamei, the suffix tar, and it's a suffix whether it's tar, so then yochel, you're allowed to eat it, right? Again, the pasuk is saying you can't let the carbon touch something that's tamei, right? Mashma, something that's suffix tamei is okay, but ema seifa, what about the end? Basar called tar yochel basar. It says by the basar, anybody that's tar can eat the basar. Vadei tar hu the yochel basar. It's mashma. If you're for sure tahar, then you could eat the basar. A suffix tamei, the suffix tar lo yochel. Mashma that if you're a suffix tamei and a suffix tar, you can't eat it. So it's a stira. One pasuk is mashma that suffix is mutter. The other pasuk is mashma the suffix is asur. Elolav shmami no. So how do we answer it? Must be kanchi yesh by das lishol, kanchi ain't by das lishol. One is talking about where it has das to be asked. So if it has das to be asked, then the suffix is going to be asur. Kanchi ain't by das lishol. And the other case is talking about where it doesn't have the das to ask, and therefore it's going to be, the suffix is going to be mutter. So now we have two sources that a suffix tumah for something that can't talk is tahar. We have Sotah, and now we have this source here from Karbanas. So why do we need two? So it says Itzrich Rav Gilul Amarav, and we need Rav Gilul Amarav, Itzrich Lemikmar Misayta. We need both limudim. We need to learn it out from the Psukim of Rav Gilul Amarav. And we also need it from Sotah. Dima de Rav, Hava Amina, if it would be from Rav, Hamina Beim Rishus HaYachid, Beim Rishus HaRabim. When the suffix tum is in Rishus HaYachid, or if it's in Rishus HaRabim, when the thing that's suffix is able to talk, so then it's going to be tamei, whether it's in Rishus HaYachid or Rishus HaRabim. So that's what we would think. So it's going to be Sotah, so therefore we need to learn out from Sotah that suffix tuma is only tamei if it's a suffix is in Rishus HaYachid. If the suffix tum is in Rishus HaRabim, then it doesn't become tamei. V'imi Sotah, and if you would have just learned from Sotah, havamina adi ika das noigeya umagia. So by Sotah, both parties that are part of the suffix have das, the man, the promiscuous guy, and the wife, who were chashid. They're both. That's a suffix, whether they're awesome, right? So since they both have das, maybe that's the type of das that a suffix is awesome. But if only one of them has das, right? For example, if a person touches something tamei, so then you would think that maybe then that suffix would be tahar, tamei. So tzricha. So therefore, we need to say no. Even if it's only one that's inanimate, that's enough to make it. That's enough to make it tar. Yeah. Okay. Good. So now that's the easier part of the daf. Not to scare anybody off, but so we need a hakdama. Aaron Kaplan covered you. We have hakdama. Yeah. So we need two hakdamas here. First is in Tuma, and we had this way back in Masechta Chagiga, which I think was in the middle of Corona. So we used the Corona marshal for this, right? Back then in Corona, when everybody was busy with contagion, right? So everybody was busy with contagion. So you had the guy who actually had Corona, and then you had somebody who was, what do you call it to him? Revealed, not revealed. What's the word?
Exposed.
Exposed. Thank you. Exposed. Right. You have the guys exposed, and then you have somebody who's exposed to the one who was exposed to the one, and then you have a third person. Right. So there were different madregas at different times. They were telling you, well, you got to stay away from somebody who was exposed to exposed. Right. So that's what they were saying by contagion. I imagine they still have that medically. I imagine there's some set rules medically for that. Right. So basically, Tuma has the same thing. You have an Ava Tuma, which would be a sheretz or a person who became Tamei May, a mace, right? That would be a Ava Tuma. Then whatever that tumah touches will become a rishon, and then a sheni, and from that, for chulin, that's where it ends. What's going to be a machlokes? We're going to paskin that for chulin, meaning regular food, it ends at sheni. So basically, if you have a guy who's tamei meis, comes in and takes some of your cholent, right? So he's a rishon, your cholent is a sheni, so that's tamei. Now your cholent, you put it onto a plate, and your cholent touches the coleslaw is tar, because tumah ends, the tumah line, the contagion of the tumah for chulin, meaning standard food, ends after 2. But if the coleslaw that's touching the cholent was truma, then it becomes tummy for truma, because for truma, the contagion goes one more step. And then if it's hektish, then it even goes a 4th step. So then if the coleslaw now went and touched your deli, and the deli was hektish, then that will become, if the deli was truma, then that deli does not become tummy, nothing happens to it because it's already the 4th level. But if that 4th level was hektish, then it does become tummy, right? So basically, chulin is up to 2, truma is 3, and hektish is 4, right? So that's one thing. The other, yeah.
You being specific with the coleslaw, as in
No.
truma d'rabbanan vegetables?
No, Gershon. No, it was just a muscle. Nothing deeper than that. Okay. Yeah. We're implementing
Well, for Tiago, by the way, the whole medical term expires on the 11th of May. So in case you were didactic in the coleslaw, I'm just saying your example expires also on the 11th.
Okay, Baruch Hashem, we got it in there. You're saying we got it in there. Yeah. Okay, but anyway, so that's the levels of tumah. So that's one thing. Then we have somebody who becomes tameh, regardless of the tumah. So they go to the mikveh during the day. This we had in the Nazir. We had it a lot, right? You go to the mikveh during the day, and during that day, so you're tahar, but you're still called a tful yom, which means you have to wait till nightfall to become tahar. Right? Well, quasi-tar. And then, depending on what the tumah is, if you need to bring a carbon, then you're called mechusar kippurim, and you still have a level of tumah until you bring that carbon the next day, which is usually the 8th day, right? Of a tzaras, or a nazir, or a tamei meis, right? So again, when you're becoming tar, you toivel on the mikveh on the 7th, let's call the 7th day, for as an example. On the 7th day, you toivel on the mikveh, you become tar. However, that day, you still have some semblance of tumah where you're not allowed to eat hektish or truma, right? Then that at nightfall, a little bit of that tumah falls off, and you could have truma, but you can't have hektish. Hektish you could have the next day after you bring the carbon, then you become fully tahor. Those are the two things that we need to know. And the Kal V'choimers are going to go back and forth and around in a circle and make us all feel dumb. Right, it would be a nice way to put it, right? Okay, so let's see. So Boy B'Yom Darash Rebbe Kiva, right? So again, we had said that day when Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah and Rebbe Gamliel were both in charge, or when they let all the people in, so it was a lot of chidushim. So Rebbe Kiva had said that if a sheretz, normally a kli cheres cannot become tummy. The only way it becomes tummy is if you dangle a tumah inside the airspace of the kli cheres, then the kli cheres becomes tummy. So let's say it was a sheretz. So the sheretz is a ava tumah. It will then, if it's dangling inside the earthenware utensil, the kli cheres, it makes the kli cheres into a sheni. And the chiddush Rebbe Kiva said is that if there's a loaf of bread inside that cheres, then it will make it into a shlishi. Right?
Why won't the actual bread be a cliche? The bread be a cliche as well?
Right, sheni.
Why won't it be tamei out to shirts?
Yeah, so because it's a special din by the tumah only makes the kli cheres because it's not touching it. The way I understand it, only through touching. Kli cheres has the chiddush that even if the ava tumah is not touching it, inside the airspace, it's a chiddush that it makes the kli cheres, but it's not, as far as I know, it's not touching the loaf.
It's not like oil, which is matame anything in its airspace.
Correct. That the way I'm understanding it, yeah. But it could be I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, then please let me know. But I think so. So there, it's specific to the kli cheres. It's not a tumas oil. The sheretz is not tamei tumas oil, right? I don't know, Tak, if there would be a mace in there, then I don't know. I don't know what would be the din, right? Could be also it's open. I don't know if they close it. But anyway, so Rebbe Kiva's chiddush was, actually, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said that right now we say that there is a shlishi, a third level of tumah for truma, right? But since there's no pasuk that says it, future generations are just going to stop treating the truma, a third level tumah for truma, right? Because there's no pasuk. And Rabbi Kiva came along and said he had a pasuk, right? Fine. So that's what the Gemara said. Yeah. Right, and that's an important point that I forgot to say. That, and Rabbi Kiva was saying it even for chulin. Rabbi Kiva was saying it even for chulin, not only for truma. Rabbi Kiva's chiddush was that you can have a shlishi for chulin. We said in the basic din that chulin ends at 2, at the second level tuma, which is true. That's the way we paskin. But Rabbi Kiva had said a chiddush that there's a shlishi for truma, which we do paskin that way. But he had also said that there's a shlishi for chulin too. Right? Okay. So the Gemara says so. So we said again, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai had said that we hold that there's a third level of tumah. But he said that since there's no source for it, people are going to end up being makel. And then Rabbi Kiva came along and said there's a source. But if there's no source, the Gemara asks, and then how do you know that a shlishi is tameh? You're saying a shlishi is tameh, but we have no source. Okay, so then why is it tameh? Right? So that's what Gemara asks. If he doesn't have a pasuk to tell us that truma extends the tumah to a third to a shlishi, so lama tamei, why is it tamei? So Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav min ha-Torah ein lo. He didn't have anything from the Torah, but midin kal v'chomer yesh lo. He had it from a kal v'chomer. Okay, what's the kal v'chomer? Matful yoim. So what's a tful yoim? So we said a tful yoim is on his 7th day. He toiveled in the mikvah. Shemuter b'chulin. A tful yoim is muter to eat chulin. Paisel b'truma, some change it to pasul b'truma. But he's also to eat truma, meaning again on the 7th day he tovels in the morning. He's tahar, but he can't eat truma, right? So kikar sheni. So this kikar, this bread, that's a sheni, shapasul b'chulin, right? But it would be pasul if it was chulin, right? If tumah touched it, it would become pasul. Shouldn't it make a shlishi b'truma? Basically saying a tful yoim who's allowed to eat chulin cannot eat truma. So a loaf of bread that's a sheni, that will make another loaf of bread that's truma into tuma. Kol shekain should be that it's going to. I'm sorry, the kika sheni, the sheni that's puzzled to eat truma, for sure should be able to make, did I say truma again? Chulin. The second level loaf of bread that's inside this earthenware kli is a Thomas sheni, so it's tameh. So then kol shekain, it should make truma into tuma, right? Again, tful yoim is mutter with chulin, but he makes truma puzzle. So a loaf of bread that's a sheni, that's tameh, right? Because it's a sheni, it's puzzle, right? Because it can't make anything else tameh. Something that's tameh, by definition, means it can make something else tameh. Something that's puzzle means that it becomes tameh, it can't make anything else tameh. So the sheni is puzzle, which means it's tameh, but it can't make anything else tameh. So shouldn't it be a kal v'chomer that it should make truma into a shlishi? So that was his kal v'chomer, that was his source. But since it's only a kal v'chomer, so people are going to forget about the kal v'chomer, which again I don't clearly understand that. Why should they? If it's a kal v'chomer, is is permission from the Torah to from the Rabbanim to paskin that way, right? So to make a din from that. So why for this kal v'chomer should they forget it? But okay, I don't know.
Where do we see the din that he can make something? Where do we see the din from full yoim that you can make something a shlishi?
We don't.
Usually from a kal v'chomer, you learn from the original kal.
Right. Oh, so you want to say daya?
No, no, it's not. I'm not even saying daya. I know Rashi brings up daya. There is nowhere in the din of Tful Yaim, the din that you can make something a shlishi.
Correct. There's nothing there about it.
So you can't eat truma. What does that have to do with? Just because I can't eat truma, therefore, we should go ahead and learn a din that you can make something tummy b'shlishi.
Yeah. It's a little tough. It's not your standard kal v'chomer. It's sort of more. It's more like gzeira shava type thing. It's not. Yeah. It's you're asking a good question. Besides for the daya should tell you. Daya should tell you that again. Daya means that the kal v'chomer can only learn what you're only equal to what you're trying to learn out. You can't learn out more. And here you have more. So Rashi says,
what's more though?
What?
What's more? We're saying apostles b'truma.
No, but he can't eat truma. It doesn't say that you're apostling truma. The most you should do is get it to a sheni. The most you should do is get it to a sheni, not to a shlishi.
Why?
What? Because that's the way the kal v'chomer is. We learn who you're learning the kal from the chomer. You're learning out the kal from the chomer, right? So the chomer here is that the chulin is a sheni. Okay, so then for truma it should be a sheni. That should be. But then you have no kal v'chomer, which is exactly what Rashi answers. When you say when the daya kills the kal v'chomer, you don't see daya, right? Yeah. Okay. Whatever it is, this is a hard one. That's a hard one. Let's just try and get through it. Yeah. So the Gemara says ikal mifrach. You could ask on that. Malat tful yom shekain avatuma. A tful yom is considered an avatuma. Maybe the reason why tful yom has this chumrah is because it's an avatuma, right? But the bread that was inside the earthenware kli is only a sheni l'tumah, right? So the Gemara says, look, so Tasi, fine. So Tasi on Tomid Beis now, mitful yaim de sheretz. Why don't we learn it out from somebody who's a tful yaim from becoming Tomei sheretz, which you don't wait 7 days for, you just wait 1 day, right? So the guy that touched the sheretz is a rishon. He's not an av, right? So Memela and that guy is also usher. He's mutter to touch chulin. Meaning, a guy touches the sheretz, dunks in the mikvah. Now he could eat chulin, he can't eat truma, so we use that as a kal v'chomer. So the Gemara says, okay, you can't do that either because it has a chumrah. Malut tful yom, the sheretz, shekaim b'minay avatuma. By a sheretz, it could at least have the potential that there's an avatuma there, right? But a loaf of bread, there's no way for a loaf of bread ever to become an avatuma, right? So therefore, since a loaf of bread can't become an avatuma, maybe it's not as chomer. So the Gemara says, okay, kli cheres yichiyah, but a kli cheres will disprove that because a kli cheres can't become an avatuma, but it can be a rishon l'tumah, and it can make truma into a sheni, right? So then, okay, but then we have a kasha. Kli cheres has its own chumrah because it's got this special din that something that's hanging in the air, the airspace of the kli cheres, makes the kli cheres tamei, right? So that's a chumrah for that. So basically, anything that we're trying to learn out of kal v'chomer, normally when you want to learn out of kal v'chomer, so you have something that's lenient and has a din, and then we have a case that's chomer, and we say, well, look, by the lenient din, you have this din of tumah, so that by the chomer din, for sure you're going to have the din of tumah, right? But the problem is, anytime you find a scenario where the kula is really a chumrah, then that busts up your kal v'chomer. Right, so we tried from Tful Yom, and we tried from Tful Yom of Sheretz, we tried from Sheretz, and we tried from Kli Cheres, and everything has a chum. So what happens when they do that? So the Gemara says, Tful Yom Yechiach, so then Tful Yom will prove it. The Chazar Adin, and then you're just going in circles. But if you didn't think you were going in circles till now we're officially going in circles. Right? The Chazar Adin, Loi Reizeh Kerizeh, V'loi Reizeh Kerizeh. Each one is not fitting to learn from the other one because each one has a chumrah. Hatzara shava shebahen, shemutaran b'chulin, u'paislan b'truma. There's one common denominator. Right? Hatzara shava means there's a common denominator. They're all mutter with chulin, and they make truma puzzle. Right? Again, chulin is a sheni. It goes up till a sheni for chulin, and if it touches truma, then that will take it to a third level. So kol sheken kikar, right? So all of them have that with their mutter and chulin, and they can make truma puzzle. So a kikar sheni, shapuzzle b'chulin. So a kikar sheni, which is a chomer, right? Meaning again, they're all considered a kal. Why? Because they are mutter with chulin, and they make truma puzzle. So a kikar sheni, shapuzzle b'chulin, right? Because if the loaf of bread is a sheni, it's puzzle for chulin. Then for sure it should be puzzling truma, and that's your kal v'chomer from a tzad hashava, right? So that was the source for Rabbi Yochanan. That was the source of Rabbi Yochanan saying that we're going to make truma for a shlishi, right? And then the future generations are not going to go with this. Why not? Like we said before, it's a kal v'chomer. They should go with it. The dor achar parich and the doiris that come later are going to ask, Mala tzad hashava shaben, your common denominator there is a tzad chomer about it. It's not lenient. Sheken yeshba and tzad chomer, because it has a tzad chomer. Each one of them has a chumra about it. So therefore, how can you go learn a kal v'chomer? The obvious kasha to that is every tzad hashava, every loy rizeh kerizeh has a chumra to it. That's the whole point. That's how we got to it, right? What's a tzad? We tried to say a kal v'chomer. Then we said no, it's not kal because this one has a chumrah. So we go to this one. We say no, that's not kal either because it has a chumrah. And then we go to this one. No, that can't go because it's tzad. So the tzad hashava is that they all have the same din, right? So, but they all have chumras to it too. So basically, the answer is that these chumras are strange chumras. It's Taisus and Ksubas that I don't remember. I didn't remember that Taisus and Ksubas, but that they're so each one's chumrah is so different. It's not just stam a chumrah. It's a very interesting chumrah. Like the earthenware has a chumrah that a tumah hanging inside of the kli makes it tumah even without touching. So since those are strange chumras, so therefore you can't. I don't know if strange is the right word, but therefore you can't learn anything out from that. Okay, so what about Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai? How come Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai didn't have that issue? Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, tzad chomer loy parach. Well, he's not asking any questions in tzad chomer. Didn't bother him that each one of these things had a tzad chomer. Okay, so that's that. Now, but we've said that once we're talking about Tum and Taras, another Gemara goes off on a tangent to discuss Tum and Taras. We had said that for Hektish, there's a fourth level of Tumah. You have Rishon for Chulin, Sheni for Chulin. According to Rebbe Kiva, there's even a Shlishi for Chulin. But according to everybody, there's a Shlishi for Truma. And there's a Revi for Hektish. How do we know that Hektish becomes Tameh even to a fourth level? So Tanya, Amar Rav Yosef, Minaylu Revi b'Kodesh puzzle. How do we know that a fourth level of Hektish is puzzle? B'dinhu. And it's a kal v'chomer. Ma mechusar kippurim. Again, a mechusar kippurim is a guy who toiveled, waited for the night, right? Then then he could eat truma, but the only thing he's left is he has to bring a carbon the next day, and then he could eat even hektish. So mechusar kippurim. So as long as he hasn't brought the carbon and it was already night, he's called mechusar kippurim. Again, during the day, once he's toiveled, he's called a tful yom. Once it hits night, his status changes from tful yom to mechusar kippurim. That status changes him in meaning it pertains to now once he's mechusar kippurim, he could eat truma, but he can't eat hektish. So ma mechusar kippurim shem mutter betruma. He's mutter to eat truma but pasal b'kodesh. He can't have kodesh shlishi. Right, it's very similar to Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai's kal v'chomer. Shlishi shepasal b'truma. A shlishi that makes truma puzzle, and it did who sheyaser revi b'kodesh shouldn't be a kal v'chomer. Then it makes a revi b'kodesh. V'namanu shlishi l'kodesh min haTorah. And how do you know that there's a shlishi for kodesh from the Torah? Revi mikal v'chomer. So we know that the shlishi is l'kodesh. That's from the Torah. That's beferish. Revi is from the kal v'chomer. What is it? Shlishi l'kodesh min haTorah min nolan. And how do you know the shlishi from kodesh? Tichsiv ha'basar sheyiga b'chol tamei lo yochel. Any basar that touched something tummy, you shouldn't eat it. Mila askina the naga b'sheni. Aren't we talking about where it touched a sheni? Right? Because sheni in the Torah is called tummy. So it's somewhere where it touched a sheni, and you still see it make something tummy. So whatever touched a sheni means it's a shlishi, and since it's hektish, it becomes tummy. So that we have a parish of pas. And how do we know that hektish goes even to a revi? And the Torah, I'm sorry, that goes back to the previous sentence again. Tichsiv, okay, 2 sentences back. Shlishi l'kodesh min Torah minala. How do you know that the shlishi from the Torah? Tichsiv abasar sheyiga v'chatami lo'yoichal mila yaskin the naga b'sheni. We're not talking about we touch the sheni, which means it itself is a shlishi. V'marachmana lo'yoichal. Torah says don't eat it. Why? Because it's tummy. So that's how you see shlishi lehektish. Revi l'kava chaymer and revi some l'kava chaymer kedamar, like we said. Fine. So that's Rabbi Yossi's kava chaymer to tell you that revi makes a hektish tumah. So Rabbi Yochanan tam beribi any adei mahu. So Rashi says beribi because that wasn't his name. He's referring to Rabbi Yossi, but Rabbi Yossi was a chacham v'gadol hadar. Right. So therefore he was called beribi. So tam beribi any adei mahu. Rabbi Yochanan says I don't understand beribi's kava chaymer. Sharei tshuva betzidai. He has a tshuva right next to it, meaning there's an answer to the kava chaymer, which means to slug up the kava chaymer. Because food that became tummy from a tful yom. Again, a tful yom is a guy that toivel, and he needs to wait for nightfall. So tful yom yechiach shepasel betruma. Right, he is puzzled to eat truma till nightfall. Beina oiser revi b'kodesh, but he doesn't make a revi b'kodesh. Right, so since he doesn't make a revi b'kodesh, so then we're going to say that the sheni shouldn't make it a kodesh either. Right, the Tanya, what are we talking about? That it doesn't make a revi b'kodesh. So now there's a 3-way machlokes tanoim over whether it makes it tamei or not, and the assumption is that Rabbi Yossi is going to pass him like the last shita. The Tanya Abashal Omer Tful Yom Tchila LeKodesh. A Tful Yom is a Tchila, meaning a Rishon for Kodesh. The Tameh Shnayim. So it's going to take the food that touches it, because it's a Rishon, takes the food that touches, going to make it to a Sheni. For Lifsol Echad, and it's going to make one puzzle, because that's a Shlishi. But it's not going to make a Revi. Remeir Omer Metama Echad or Paisel Echad. It's only going to be Metama 1 and Pasel 1. Right? The same way a tful yom makes food and drink tameh for truma, kach paisel oichle kodesh umashke kodesh. So therefore, it makes things kodesh. I'm sorry, I said it was like the third sheet. It's like the first sheet. No. I'm sorry. No, right. He's assuming that the Rabbanon, Rabbi Yossi is going like the Rabbanon. That the Keshem Shepaisal Oikli Truma Mashke Truma, the same way it's full Yom, said makes anything that's Truma puzzle, Paisal Oikli Kodesh and Mashke Kodesh is also going to make Hektish Tameh. Right? Right? So therefore, if you hold like the Chachamim, so a full Yom is puzzle for truma, but he doesn't make a revi for hektish. Right? All he does is he only makes a shlishi. According to the Chachamim, it's a tful yom only makes shlishi. A tful yom cannot make revi for hektish. Right? According to Abba Shaul, he can. According to Rameir, he can. According to the Chachamim, he cannot. A tful yom, the strength of the tumah of a tful yom goes for hektish the same way it goes to truma, only goes to a shlishi. So then you're therefore that slugs up Rabbi Yossi's kava chaymer. So the obvious question on this is Masal Rapapa, maybe Rabbi Yossi Rabbanon Svirule. Who says Rabbi Yossi goes with the Rabbanon? Tilma Abba Shol Svirule. Maybe Rabbi Yossi goes like Abba Shol. The Amr L'Tamei Shnayim L'Lifsal Echad. Right? He makes the second thing Tamei, and then he makes the third thing puzzle, which would be referring to it would make it a Revi, right? Right, again, he's saying that it's a rishon, it's a rishon, and then it makes two things tameh and one thing puzzle. So it has a sheni, a shlishi, and then a revi. right? So again, Rabbi Yochanan wanted to say that Rabbi Yossi. What are you saying?
It doesn't sound right. What you're saying it's
Could be. What do you say?
It sounds like that's only going to be possible to be possible truma, but not the fourth level to be possible kachim.
What do you mean? It makes two things tame, sheni, shlishi, and then the third thing it makes puzzle.
That's what it means. Is that's that puzzle? It's going to cut him.
I think so, because it can't be truma. Truma only goes to shlishi, right?
Mm-hmm.
Archibald agrees with Tzvi Yaakov.
That's probably where I got it from. I tried to look at the Steinsaltz. The Steinsaltz app. It looks like a pretty nice app. So I looked at that. I couldn't make heads or tails out of that one. I don't know why. But anyways. Yeah, so that's what it's saying. So again, Maskul Rapapa, again, Rabbi Yochanan wanted to slug up Rabbi Yossi's Kal V'Chomer and say, Rabbi Yossi, you're trying to make a Kal V'Chomer based on a Tful Yoim. Well, the Chachamim hold that a Tful Yoim doesn't make anybody into it stops at Shlishi. So then the Papa asked, Maskul Rapapa, my Rabbi Yossi Karabanan Svirulate, Dima Kabashol Svirulate, Amar Latamish Naim Pasal. Maybe he goes like Abashol, and he holds that there is a Ravi for Hektish from a Tful Yoim. So then the Gemara says, no, it can't be that he holds like Abashol. If you think that he holds like Abashol, then why can't he bring a Kal V'Chomer from that Kodesh is puzzle from food that came Machmas Tful Yom, which is what? What would the Kal V'Chomer be? Food that was touched by a Tful Yom, the Tful Yom Gufei Mutter B'Chulin. The Tful Yom is Mutter Chulin, right? He went to the mikveh, he's allowed to have Chulin, right? And Amrit, Oiser Revi B'Kodesh, but you say that will make a Revi. So Oichel Shlishi on Tamid Aleph now, Abba Machma Sheni, then a Shlishi that comes because of a Sheni, the Sheni Gufei Aser B'Chulin. The Sheni is also by Chulin, like we know, because you have a Sheni makes Chulin puzzle, and it didn't Oiser Revi B'Kodesh. That maybe that it shouldn't be a Kal V'Chomer, that it should make a Revi B'Kodesh. Right? Meaning the Tful Yom is mutter with Chulin, and it makes a Revi, like if you go on like Abashol, right? So something that makes a Chulin into a Sheni, Kal V'Chomer should make a Hektish into a Revi. Okay, and if you're going to say that the Rabbi Yossi can't learn out the Kal V'Chomer because you could have a kasha malat Tful Yom shekain avatuma, that because you can't bring any Kal V'Chomer from Tful Yom because of Tful Yom is an avatuma. What do you mean? Ha'asina min b'chusuk Kippurim. You could ask it from b'chusuk Kippurim. B'chusuk Kippurim is also an avatuma, but we didn't ask this kasha. So since we didn't ask this kasha, theoretically he could have a Kal V'Chomer from Abashol, and he didn't do it. So since he didn't do it, must be he doesn't hold of Abashol. Right? Yeah. So that's why Rabbi Yochanan did not like Rabbi Yossi's Kal V'Chomer. Okay, I hope I made sense. If not, I'm sorry. Every time I thought I had this shot, then I thought I didn't have it, then I thought I had it. Now I read it. Now I'm thinking I don't have it. But the point to know. Chazara from whatever we need to know, whether we understand the Kal, we don't understand the Kal. The main insight to come out from tonight is that Chulin is a Sheni, Truma, it goes coming up to a Shlishi, Hektish goes up to a Revi, but Rabbi Kiva holds from our Mishnah that you could have a Shlishi for Chulin also, which tomorrow's Daf is Hashem is going to go through 5 Shitas, I think, or 6 Shitas who disagree with Rabbi Kiva and say that there is no such thing as a Shlishi for Chulin. Chulin ends by Sheni. That's which is taka the way we pass. All right. Have yourselves a fine night.
Yaakov, not to make light of your effort, which was tremendous. What I got from this now is that the Kahanim are the ones who invented the little toothpicks for the sandwiches, for the Sheni Shlishin for Kodshim. They
What you mean? Because what it went.
You don't have to touch it. You don't shouldn't become it.
Oh, is that what you mean?
No, I meant to call it. This is a Kulin, this is Truma, this is Kodshim, you know. And the deli sandwiches are the two.
You mean you able to mean the what do you call it?
Don't spend so much time trying to understand what I said.
The horse divorce, Yaakov. The horse divorce.
The flags.
Yeah.
They put
Okay, so-
flags in the food.
So that becomes a reveal. That's what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. All right. Very good. Very good.
I thought that's how chopsticks got invented. You know, they shouldn't be able to touch the food, you know, so whatever.
Well, no. Oh, that's tomorrow's stuff. We're gonna see how to connect. Okay, it's in tomorrow's stuff. How to connect doughs that they don't become tame, but enough that you could take challah off from every dough. I still have time to work. What?
Have you heard anybody dafka when it comes to karpas dip with their fingers because they just did raksa beforehand? Or
Yes.
chats? Or chats.
Yes.
Don't use a fork.
I
Yes,
did
it's
it.
a minhag.
I did it this year. I don't
First
know what
time-
got into me. It's funny you're asking.
Wait, but with which vegetables? Yeah.
Potatoes.
One second. Did you actually use your French fry idea?
No, we always had potatoes. Why are you asking that, Avi?
Because you're talking about Kohanim using toothpicks and forks and the same tomorrow.
Oh.
Made me
No,
think
so
about
I had seen-
because the tuma dipping it in something that's the water, the liquid. It came up at our Seder this year.
So what did you do?
Oh, my minhag is we eat with a fork. I mean, we're civilized. That's why we use a fork. We still washed our hands, but we use a fork when we eat a vegetable and dip it.
So I think the shtickle Torah that comes out is that if you want it to be a hecker, that you're washing your hands for no reason, l'chayra, if you eat if you dip with the fork, you don't have to wash your hands.
But then
Right.
you're
And-
ochre the whole Seder.
Correct. No, but I'm no fakert. So I think maybe I ate with a fork this year, and other years I didn't. I don't remember what I did. I think no, but the pshat is that it's more of a hecker that why are we washing their hands? So the kid should ask, right? So if you use a fork, the kids might ask, because they say, "Well, you're using a fork, so why do you have to wash your hands? You're not touching the liquid." So like this, you use a fork, it's more of a kasha. On the other hand, why are you washing then if you only fork? So I don't know.
That's why I wash and give everyone else forks. So they should ask.
Yeah. No, okay.
I wash, use a fork, and then give them a smack. So they should also ask.
That's yeah. What was that for?
Anyways,
And it's supposed to be karpa. That's to be from the Barpi Adam to be out tomorrow. You give them a patch.
there you go. Anyways, I'm running to Myra. Have yourselves a fine night.
Shikaya, good night.
I see when everybody's quiet, it's not everybody got it. Yeah.